So it's come to that time we got to talk about the absolute unicorn, the FX3 Mark II, and something that no one is talking about. So let's get it. What's going on, my friends? I hope you're all doing fantastic. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up, and obviously be active in the comments below because I want to know your thoughts about this camera. Now, there are a few specs that we do need to talk about, but there's one major spec that no one's really talking about, and we did see at NAB, which could give us a big clue of what would be added in the FX3 Mark II. Now, I do have to state that this is a speculation video. It's purely 100% just fun talking about specs, but it's not going to be released until at least the end of this year / next year, start of next year, or at least announced then, because we still have a firmware update that's coming in September / October for the FX3, FX30 for a couple of different features in those cameras. And I mean, the FX3 is doing incredibly well. Why would Sony need to replace it now? Like, they don't need to replace it unless the FX3 is getting completely left behind, but they're actually finding it hard to, get them in and produce more. People are still buying these off the shelf, so there isn't really a point in replacing a camera that's doing absolutely fantastic. And you could even see they're struggling to produce the A1 Mark II. That's been on back order everywhere around the world, so they would want to try and produce these cameras as well before they start dropping new cameras. And naturally, the FX9 and FX6 was actually produced before the FX3, so you would imagine there would be an FX9 or an FX6 Mark II before the FX3 Mark II. But there would have to be an FX3 Mark II in the pipelines when it comes to development, because they do need to look towards the future. It is starting to get a little bit dated when it comes to some of the competitor specs, in terms of what Lumix and Nikon and Canon are actually producing. They're doing some incredible things. Lumix are really pushing the limits and trying to give us incredibly budget options for filmmakers, but also photographers as well. Now, one of the key features that I would absolutely love to expect in an FX3 Mark II would have to be open gate recording. Now, Sony don't offer open gate recording. They have it in the Venice cameras, and that's pretty much it. They don't even have it in the Burano yet. I heard there was potential that it was going to be coming in the Burano, but it still hasn't. And essentially, open gate gives us the ability to record the whole sensor, the 3x2 sensor. It just gives us a little bit more height in that footage. So when we do use anamorphic lenses, we're not cutting off too much of the sides. Like, we still got to cut off at the sides anyway, unless you have, the new Mantis Blazar lenses, which are 1.33 times anamorphic lenses. Fantastic for 16x9 and 17x9 sensors. But, the Blazar Katos are a 2 times anamorphic lens. It's just far too much footage that you're going to be cutting off the sides on a 16x9 sensor, or even a 17x9 sensor, even worse. So hopefully Sony will give us the opportunity to film open gate. That would be so good for a lot of anamorphic shooters, but obviously a lot of people that like to film horizontal and take vertical frames out of it. So essentially a lot of people that do social media work, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube shorts, and just want to have both mediums, that's going to be beneficial for a lot of people. Now, the second spec that I would love to see with the FX3 Mark II would have to be 32-bit float recording, but it would be very similar to what Lumix has in their XLR DW2 or whatever it is, the DW2 XLR input. So essentially it has 32-bit float into the top module, and then when you connect it to your camera, that's when you get the 32-bit float internal. So that would be the easiest way. So if Sony brought out a second version of this, and this had 32-bit float when you connect it into here, fantastic, because 32-bit float allows you to pretty much record without having to worry about your levels. And there not be any clipping, because essentially it just records so much of the high tones and so much of the low tones, and you just have so much more flexibility in post-production. And it is actually very useful, specifically if you set the audio levels perfectly. Someone ends up laughing or yelling and you don't have time to adjust the audio levels. That audio will not clip, which is a game changer for a lot of people who do run and gun work. Now, the third feature that I would love to see in the FX3 Mark II would happen to be maybe like a 6K sensor. So in my opinion, 6K I feel like is the absolute sweet spot. 8K, I don't feel like I use that too much. Sure, I have been using 8K in the Lumix S1R2 and it's been great. And even the Nikon Z8, I've been using 8K in that. It's amazing. but I still feel like it's just a touch too much because a lot of my exports are 4K and a lot of my client stuff's actually still 1080p is the files that they receive. So, you know, going from 8K to 1080p is just absolutely insane. And it's obviously the file sizes in your computer and in your storage, it just starts adding up. And especially if you are using, you know, ProRes RAW or even Nikon NRAW, the file sizes are insane. So, you know, 6K would just be that absolute sweet spot. And I do feel like, you know, if you are someone who wants to utilize just the 9:16 portion, it's still going to give you some nice high resolution video if you want horizontal and portrait at the same time. Now, obviously the third one that I would love to see is that fully articulating screen that we do see in this bad boy. This is the A9 Mark III. Absolute beast when it comes to that flip screen. Obviously an absolute beast for a different reason because it's a global shutter sensor. I mean, that in itself is absolutely incredible, but I don't think we'll see that in the FX3 Mark II. Even though I've actually wanted this sensor in an FX3 style body, I would love to call it an FXG in terms of FX global shutter. So that would be amazing, but hey, Sony, please, give us that. That would be pretty amazing. But I digress there. So we're talking about that flip screen, the articulating screen that tilts up, out, and around to the front. So it's going to suit a lot of people who just love to shoot at the hip, nice and straight, and obviously the screen is directly in front of them. It's not out to the side. I know some people don't like that. So it's just the best of all the worlds when it comes to the screen. And it's just extremely useful, obviously. Now look, the last major feature, and the one feature that no one is talking about, is how they're going to be doing ND filters. And I do feel like that this is absolutely possible, internal ND filters into this thing. Now, if you did see the Venice Rialto external unit, the very, very small unit, that has internal ND filters. Now, sure, they are drop-in ND filters, so you do actually have to access them from the top, but if you can actually get that into that camera directly in front of that sensor, you can definitely get that directly into this camera as well. You just have to have the exact same sort of input style, so inputting it from the top, and obviously they're just drop-in filters, they're hard stops. But we have to talk about Tilta's variable ND filter system. Now that is extremely thin, and I do feel like Sony could actually implement something like that. So you can actually have a drop-in module that has the same glass element that you could drop it in, and it has pins on the side, and the pins would actually connect to the camera, which is where it would be powered. And obviously you can adjust it through the camera itself. So that's how you would able to get drop-in ND filters, or at least internal ND filters. Sure, I understand that you still have to take them out and drop them in, but at least they're inside the camera before the actual lens element. So you don't actually have to add it onto the front. It will be, you know, integrated within the camera. So you can use absolutely any lens whatsoever with that system. And I do feel like Sony could actually implement this. It's absolutely doable. Tilta have that technology within their new, you know, Tilta Mattebox Pro system, and Sony have that technology to do it in the Sony Venice Rialto unit with that small drop-in style. So implementing both of those features directly into this, I think, is an extremely smart idea. Now, I understand they do have to make a few adjustments with the hot shoe placement and try and adjust that. Then they would obviously have to move the screen and make adjustments there and all the internals, but it could definitely be done. And I feel like that is probably the best way to please everyone. And look, I understand my FX6 is a far bigger camera, and this one actually has the internal ND filters that can obviously change out, go to completely clear, but the size of the body is completely different to the FX3 and FX30. So a drop-in style where you can put them in and take them out, I think is the smartest idea. And if they can get that technology in there, I think it's going to be an absolute game changer, and it would sell for another 5 to 10 years. Literally, the FX3 Mark II would just be off the shelves, and you would never even see it on the shelf. They would sell just like hotcakes. But look, they are the main features that I would love to see in the FX3 Mark II. I know there's a ton of other features that I would love to see, but I don't think is really important to talk about. We can talk about frame rates, we can talk about readout speed and all these things, optical low pass filter. It's just not really necessary. The ones that I've talked about today, I feel like are the biggest key factors that would draw a lot of people to the FX3 Mark II and definitely have a difference between the FX3 Mark I and the FX3 Mark II, and obviously the competitors as well, because Sony want to drop a camera that is going to be future-proof and be able to knock the competitors down for years to come. So I think that that is going to be absolutely key with some of these features. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read absolutely every comment. I may not be able to comment back, but I am active there and I am reading them all. So definitely get in the comments, let me know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.